I don't need to tell any of you that right now, here in the UK, relations with China are just a little bit frosty. What, with the whole Hong Kong thing, the sanctioning of several UK MPs because they questioned the alleged genocide of the Uyghurs happening in Xinjiang province, and the constant threats made towards Taiwan, to name just a few. One of the topics at the forefront of the UK's frosty relationship with China are the Confucius Institutes. The Confucius Institutes are described as public educational cultural programs with the aim to promote Chinese language learning and culture, support local Chinese teaching internationally, and facilitate cultural exchanges. There are currently 30 of these institutes located at universities all around the UK. According to the University of Sheffield's Confucius Institute's website, we are a bridge reinforcing friendship and cooperation between the UK and China, focused on research-led teaching. Yeah, right, a bridge. A nice big red bridge made out of communism. Apparently, these Confucius Institutes used to be funded by Hanban, an organization affiliated with the Chinese government, but now they are funded by the Chinese International Education Foundation, who are not affiliated with the Chinese government? Something sounds a little bit fishy here. It sounds to me a little bit like good old Chinese government affiliated Hanban has attempted a rebrand and changed its name to the Ministry of Education Center for Language Exchange and Cooperation, and then they created a separate organization called the Chinese International Education Foundation, which will fund overseas Confucius Institutes. I think this is the Confucius Institute's way of dodging the accusations that their links to the Chinese government could have an impact on academic freedoms enjoyed around universities in the United Kingdom. Because let's face it, the Chinese government aren't exactly known as a champion of free speech and human rights. And if the Confucius Institutes are funded by the Chinese Communist Party, you can bet that they're pushing the party propaganda to the students that they're teaching. Propaganda such as Mao Zedong was a great revolutionary leader and he wasn't responsible for the deaths of 50 million Chinese people, or Taiwan was, and always has been a province of China. You know, all the things the Chinese government wishes were true, but actually aren't. This begs to ask the question, why are such places allowed to freely operate on UK university campuses? These places that go against almost everything that UK universities stand for. You know, a creative and challenging environment where students can freely express themselves and not have to worry about having their human rights trampled on by an oppressive and insecure, disgusting government. Let's not also forget that if these Confucius Institutes are being funded by the CCP, then you can almost guarantee that actual Communist Party of China members are in control of the curriculum and every aspect of the management of these institutes. Being a member of the CCP is not exactly like joining a political party in the West. If you look at the oath that all the Communist Party members must take when they join the party, we can clearly see that their allegiance lies with the party and only the party. They literally eat, breathe, and shit communism. Here's the actual oath that they have to take before they join the party. It goes something like this. It is my will to join the Communist Party of China, uphold the party's program, observe the provisions of the party constitution, fulfill a party member's duties, carry out the party's decisions, strictly observe party discipline, guard party secrets, be loyal to the party, work hard, fight for communism throughout my life, be ready at all times to sacrifice my all for the party and the people, and never betray the party. Wow, no wonder the Confucius Institutes tried to get away from that link to the Chinese government. Do we really want these kind of Chinese nationalists who are loyal to the party teaching our university students here in the United Kingdom? I think not. What I and many others believe is that the Confucius Institutes are what this very interesting article written by Lee Edwards describes as a Trojan horse. It's actually a really good analogy because these Confucius Institutes are pretending to be educational centers, language learning, but really they're all about the Chinese propaganda. But they are set up not only to spread the CCP's propaganda and undermine democratic values, but also to monitor the behavior of the Chinese students that attend UK universities, to keep an eye on them, and if they step out of line, for example, expressing something negative about the Chinese government, then their families back home in China will be threatened, intimidated, and used in an attempt to blackmail the students. This might sound completely outlandish to you that such a thing could be happening in free, democratic countries, but it isn't beyond the realm of impossible. In fact, we only have to look at the recent news of the Chinese government running secret police stations in various countries around the world to see that these Confucius Institutes set up to monitor Chinese students is indeed a possibility. It has been brought to the attention of the world by several recent media articles that the Chinese Communist Party are running 54 police centers outside of China, and 2 of them are in the UK. One in London claims to be a real estate agency, and the other one in Glasgow is under the guise of a Chinese restaurant. These clandestine police stations have acted under the pretense that they are set up to help Chinese citizens abroad with paperwork and translation, but it's been discovered that they are actually harassing Chinese dissidents and blackmailing them to return home. They're using the usual threats against the dissidents' family members who are still in China. Who needs extradition treaties when you can set up your own network of thugs in these foreign countries? Now can you see why Chinese people are so afraid to talk about their government in a negative way? And can you now see why it is not a massive stretch to imagine that the same very threatening behavior is happening on our university campuses, with Chinese students getting harassed and bullied into toeing the party line, too afraid to say anything about it for fear that their family back in China will get into trouble for their actions. This is disgusting. In 2019, the Confucius Institutes in the US were under investigation by the Government Accountability Office. The Government Accountability Office released a report that was unable to find any evidence of any widespread attempts to restrict academic freedom, with people directly involved in the programs stating there had been no attempts to interfere with their curriculum. But do you seriously think that any of these Chinese students who had been targeted and harassed would be willing to speak up against this? Remember, they not only threaten the students, but also their families back home in China. I myself have been a victim of such threats and intimidation tactics, and let me tell you, these tactics work, especially when you are in a foreign country. I remember when I first started making YouTube videos criticizing the CCP and its foreign sycophants, I received some really threatening emails targeting not only myself, but my family. I still receive death threats to this day. I mean, take a look at this one. Somebody sent me a DM on Twitter and they actually threatened to cut my throat if I ever go back to Taiwan. Yeah, like I really believe that a Taiwanese person would have sent this to me. I'm not even Chinese, and they targeted me. So can you imagine what it would be like if I was Chinese and had family in China? I definitely would not be making these videos, I can tell you that. I've also had a personal experience studying at a Confucius Institute. Look, here's me singing at the performance. They have all of these cultural performances for Chinese holidays, and sure, it's all very interesting, it's nice to learn about culture and that kind of thing, but I think that if I actually tried to ask them a question about China's terrible atrocities, I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't have accepted that and I would have been kicked out straight away. So in my opinion, there is no way that these Confucius Institutes aren't set up to push CCP propaganda. There is no way that they are not harassing the Chinese students, and there is absolutely no way why they should be allowed to operate on UK university campuses, or for that matter, in the UK anywhere. And I really hope we can see these places get shut down as soon as possible. This really seems to be an impossible thing to wish for, because they're so ingrained into our universities, and let's face it, the universities love getting that Chinese money, but there is actually light at the end of this tunnel. I recently read an article that the UK government are planning to replace Confucius institutes with teachers from Taiwan. The Conservative government, led by Liz Truss, are ready to declare China an acute threat, placing it in the same category as Russia, which means there will be no room for Chinese government-run language centers. This sounds awesome to me, because not only will students have the opportunity to study Chinese how it's actually supposed to be with traditional Chinese characters, but there will be no more CCP propaganda integrated into their lessons. They can study Chinese with the freedom that you would expect at a university in the UK, because the amazing country of Taiwan shares the same values that we do in the UK. They have respect for human rights and freedom of speech. I really hope that these Chinese communist propaganda hubs on our university campuses will soon be a thing of the past.